An update to America's housing market. After years of sellers really calling the shots, buyers are regaining some leverage. According to data this week, home prices spiked about 1.5% in August from a year earlier. That is the weakest annual gain in more than 2 years. That is good news for new prospective buyers, but not so much for homeowners. This is all happening in a stalled housing market where more home sales are falling through than ever before. About 15% of agreements were canceled in September. That's up from nearly 14% a year earlier. Joining us now is real estate developer Uri Mann with this. Really appreciate you joining us. And let's start with buyers. I mean, does that mean now is a good time because things were so tough for so long? We were seeing multiple offers, everything going over ask. Is that over?
Well, it's definitely a good time to buy a house if you can afford that number. And I think what's happening now, you're seeing a lot of these contracts stalling, the highest rate ever, people canceling contracts because buyers and sellers, they're just living in two different realities. The sellers are thinking about 2021 prices, and the buyers are basically worried because they're watching the news. They see sell-offs. That creates a lack of consumer confidence. When the job market is suddenly potentially shaky, then people are worried about buying a home. The buyers are just nervous, and they are dealing with sellers that are sort of locked in to their golden 3% mortgages. So these sellers have been married to these mortgages with such a great low rate. And the sellers they're not putting their houses on the market because they see this great interest rate that they have. And then they think, okay, I see this sexy new home. Maybe I want to upgrade, but they're worried about flirting with that 7% mortgage when they're married to this 3% mortgage. So they're calling it off. So that's happening a lot when people put their home up for sale. Suddenly they realize, what is my alternative if I do sell this home?
That's interesting. So, I mean, what is the advice for homeowners then? Because it does seem like some tough news for them. Do they try to sell now before it gets even worse? I mean, do they wait? What is your advice?
So if you're thinking about selling a home today, I think to make sure that you don't waste your time with a contract that could fall apart, you can get prepped before you sell the home. Make sure that you have a great inspection report so you can show that to a buyer well before you go under contract, and make sure the buyer is qualified. Don't waste time with somebody that's not qualified. Make sure they know what the insurance costs are. I tell everybody, hey, it's easy to fall in love with a house until you meet your insurance agent. That's when you get this shock. Oh my, especially in Florida, our insurance premiums are crazy.
Yeah. I mean, lastly, do you think this is sustainable? Will prices stay down? What are you seeing?
Well, right now we have overall the entire country, we still see the housing market, the premiums, the pricing of the homes still going up. There are certain markets that have had a lot of pressure, especially those that ran up during COVID, and you've seen a lot of prices falling in those markets. But there's a lot of bright spots for the U.S. economy. The housing market, for example, in Houston is still relatively strong, and that's because it remains affordable, with the average price of a home being 20% less than a house, for example, in Dallas. So right now, I think it's a great time to buy a home. I always tell people, hey, in the United States, we have this beautiful thing called the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. If you can afford the price and you can hold on to a house for 5-10 years, eventually you're always going to be in the money. So it's a good idea to buy. And right now, it's a better time to buy than a few months ago because interest rates are a little bit lower. There's a lot more inventory in the market. So you have more leverage to negotiate with a potential seller. It's all about where you are with your confidence.
All right. Uri Mann, really appreciate the context and time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.